They say a man's character shows when nobody's watching. I reckon that's half true. The other half shows when everybody's watching and you do the right thing anyway. January 12th, 1889. The blizzard that killed 10,000 head of cattle across Wyoming came howling down from Canada like the devil himself was driving it. Temperature dropped to 40 below. Wind turned the world into white nothing. I was 3 miles from home when I saw the horse, black as midnight, standing alone on the trail. No rider, just tracks leading off into the storm, filling fast with snow. My girl Annabelle tugged my coat, 8 years old and deaf since scarlet fever took her hearing when she was 4. Her hands moved in the signs we'd made together. Pa, someone's dying. I had two choices: keep riding, keep my daughter safe, or follow those tracks into a storm that could kill us both to help someone I didn't know, someone who might already be dead. Sometimes a man doesn't choose, he just moves. And everything that happened after, the guns, the lawyers, the torches outside my door, the moment my girl's chalk marks changed territorial law, all started because I couldn't walk past a stranger freezing to death. 4 men had ridden past that horse not 10 minutes before. I knew because I could still see their tracks, getting covered but visible. 4 cowboys heading hard for Stillwater before the trail closed. They'd seen that black mare. Had to. Couldn't miss her. But they kept riding. Annabelle's small hand found mine, squeezed once, her way of saying, "I trust you, Pa, whatever you choose." And right then I knew I didn't have a choice at all, because my girl was watching. And Margaret, God rest her soul, she was watching too, from wherever good women go when they leave this world too soon. If I rode past someone dying because it was easier, because it was safer, what would that teach my daughter about the kind of man her father was? I turned dust into the wind. The tracks curved off the main trail and headed up toward the ridge where the storm was worst. Every step my old mare took, I felt the cold trying to claw inside my coat, my lungs, my bones. My bad leg, the one that's been troublesome since Shiloh. It throbbed with each shift in the saddle. But I kept Annabelle pressed tight against my back and followed those filling prints into white hell. 50 yards up, I found her, face down in a drift, half buried. One arm stretched out like she'd been reaching for something that wasn't there. I swung down fast, my legs screaming as I hit the snow. Rolled her over gentle, the way you handle something that might already be past saving. A woman, 30, maybe 35, dark hair crusted with ice, lips the color of old bruises, eyes closed. Dressed too fine for rough country, wool coat with brass buttons, leather gloves meant for town, not for riding winter trails. I pressed 2 fingers to her neck, pulse, faint as a moth wing. But there. "She alive, Pa?" Annabelle couldn't hear her own voice, but she felt the vibration when she spoke. Sounded like wind through dry grass. I nodded, pulled off my glove to check again, make sure I wasn't fooling myself. And that's when I saw it. The ring, gold band on her left hand, half hidden by her glove. Engraving I'd seen on gates and fences across half the territory. The Merrick cattle brand, that distinctive M with the crossbar. My stomach dropped like a stone down a well. This wasn't just some traveler caught in the storm. This was Beatrice Merrick, the Iron Widow, the woman who owned the land I was standing on. The woman who'd fought 47 lawsuits to keep her father's ranch after he died, and won every single one. The woman whose foreman would hang a man for so much as looking at her wrong. And she was dying in my arms. I looked at Annabelle. At those brown eyes, her mama's eyes, waiting to see what I'd do. Behind her, the storm was worsening, visibility down to nothing, temperature still dropping. We had maybe an hour of daylight left, if you could call this gray darkness daylight. Smart thing? Ride for town. Get the marshal. Let someone with authority handle this. Let someone who wouldn't get accused of God knows what for touching the richest woman in Wyoming territory. But smart don't always mean right. I scooped Beatrice Merrick up in my arms. She was lighter than she should have been, like the cold had already started taking her, and carried her back to dust, got her positioned behind Annabelle, draped her arms around my girl's waist. "Hold her hands," I told Annabelle. "Don't let go." The black mare followed us, too exhausted to run, too loyal to leave her rider. We turned for home. 3 miles through a blizzard, carrying a woman who could have me arrested for kidnapping just for touching her. A woman whose lawyers could take everything I had, which wasn't much, but it was all Annabelle and I had left. My hands shook on the reins, not from cold, from knowing that saving her life might cost me mine. The line shack wasn't much to look at. Rough-hewn logs, single room, stone chimney that smoked when the wind hit wrong. But when I kicked that door open and felt the warmth from the morning fire still burning low, it looked like salvation. I carried Beatrice Merrick straight to the cot near the fireplace. Annabelle was already moving, pulling blankets from the trunk, stoking the fire with kindling. Good girl. Knew what needed doing without being told. I peeled off the woman's soaked coat. Her skin was gray as old snow, frostbite darkening her fingertips, creeping up from her toes. I'd seen it before, during the war. Knew what came next if we didn't act fast. "Fetch every blanket we got," I said. Annabelle ran to the storage shelf, came back with our winter quilts, the patchwork one her mama had made, even the old wool blanket I used for dust on cold nights. We wrapped Beatrice Merrick like we were building a cocoon, layering warmth against the cold that had its claws in her. I filled the kettle from the water bucket, set it on the stove, added the last of our firewood to the flames. We'd need more before morning, but that was a problem for later. Right now, keeping this woman alive was the only problem that mattered. Her breathing was shallow, too shallow, lips still blue. Annabelle tugged my sleeve. Her hands moved. "Will she die?" "I don't know," I signed back. Wasn't going to lie to my girl. "But we're going to try everything we can." The water heated. I made weak tea with the mint leaves from the jar on the shelf. Margaret used to grow it in the little garden behind the cabin, back when we had a cabin instead of a shack. Lifted Beatrice's head careful, pressed the tin cup to her lips. Most of it dribbled down her chin, but a few drops made it past. Her throat moved, just barely. That was something. I rubbed her hands between mine, trying to coax blood back into those gray fingers. Annabelle did the same with her feet, her small face serious with concentration. Hours passed. The storm outside howled like something alive and angry. Wind found every crack in the walls, every gap around the window frame. But inside, we kept the fire burning. Kept watch. Around midnight, I heard it. Footsteps crunching through snow outside. Slow. Deliberate. Stopping just beyond the door. I stood, moved to the window. Peered through frost-thick glass. Torchlight. 3, maybe 4 of them. Men on horseback, just at the edge of the clearing. Watching the shack. Faces hidden in shadow and falling snow. They didn't approach. Didn't call out. Just sat there. Watching. My blood went cold for reasons that had nothing to do with weather. Annabelle appeared at my elbow, looked where I was looking. Her hands moved. "Who?" "Don't know," I signed. But I did know. Word traveled fast in small territories. 4 cowboys had seen me turn off trail, had seen me following tracks into the storm. By now, those men were in Stillwater, warming themselves by a fire, telling stories. And people talk. People wonder. People add things up wrong and come to conclusions that fit what they want to believe. The riders outside stayed another 5 minutes, then turned, rode back toward town. But the message was clear. We'd been seen. We were being watched. I checked Beatrice again. Color was coming back to her cheeks. Just a hint. But it was there, breathing deeper, steadier. She might live. Which meant, come morning, I'd have to explain to someone, marshal, foreman, lawyer, didn't matter who, why the richest woman in Wyoming territory was unconscious in my shack. And there wasn't a story in the world that would sound innocent. Annabelle climbed onto the cot beside Beatrice, careful not to jostle her. Took off the locket she always wore, the one with her mama's picture inside, and placed it in Beatrice's hand. Closed those pale fingers around it gentle. Her way of saying, "You're under our protection now." I pulled a chair close to the fire, settled in to keep watch through the night. Outside, the wind howled. Inside, I heard something worse, the faint sound of more horses, coming closer. Dawn came gray and cold. I hadn't slept. Couldn't, with those riders circling back twice more during the night, stopping just outside rifle range, watching, waiting. Beatrice Merrick hadn't woken, but her breathing was steady now. The frostbite had stopped spreading. Small mercies. And the knock came just after sunrise. Firm, official. The kind of knock that said refusing to answer wouldn't make it go away. I opened the door. Marshal Elwood Graves stood on my threshold. 6 deputies fanned out behind him. Behind them, maybe 20 townspeople. And at the back of the crowd, sitting tall on a gray gelding, Clyde Hardwick, land agent, lawyer, the kind of man who smiled while he buried you. "Morning, Silas." The marshal's voice was tired. He didn't meet my eyes. "We need to talk about the woman." "She ain't fit to be moved," I said. "Hypothermia. Frostbite. Another day of rest, maybe 2, and I'll bring her to town myself." "That's not how this works." Hardwick dismounted, pushed through the deputies. Dressed like he was attending court, not standing in snow outside a line shack. "Miss Merrick has been missing for 3 days. Her family is concerned." I bit back what I wanted to say. Beatrice Merrick had no family. Father dead 6 years. No siblings, no husband. Everyone in the territory knew that. "I found her dying in the blizzard," I said. "Brought her here, that's all." "Found her?" Hardwick smiled. "Or took her." The crowd murmured. Boots shifted in snow. "4 men rode past her," I said, voice level. "I didn't. That's the difference between them and me." "The difference," Hardwick said, "is they had sense enough to fetch proper authorities. You decided to keep her here, in your shack, alone, overnight." The way he said it made clean words sound dirty. "My daughter was here," I said, "and she'd have died if I'd waited for authorities. You want to charge me with saving a life? Go ahead." Marshal Graves stepped forward. "Nobody's charging you with anything, Silas, but Miss Merrick needs to be examined by a proper doctor, needs to give her own account of what happened. Then bring Doc Taggart here. She can't travel. Or you won't let her." Hardwick pulled a paper from his coat. "Territorial Law, Section 47, subsection B. If a citizen goes missing for 72 hours and cannot be produced for verification, they're declared presumed deceased. Estate passes to territorial administration." My gut tightened. "She ain't deceased. She's 10 feet away, breathing." "Then produce her. Let her speak for herself." I stepped aside, gestured to the open door. "See for yourself." Hardwick moved past me, deputies following. The crowd pressed closer, craning to see. I hated every one of them looking into my home, into the small space where Annabelle and I lived, judging the threadbare blankets and patched quilts and life we'd scraped together. They surrounded the cot. Beatrice Merrick lay there, still unconscious, color in her cheeks but eyes closed. Peaceful, almost, like she was just sleeping. Hardwick bent close. "Miss Merrick, can you hear me?" Nothing. He straightened, looked at the marshal. "She's unresponsive. Could be drugged." "Could be." "She's healing." I pushed through the deputies. "Give her time." "Time." Hardwick smiled again. "That's the problem, Carmody. Clock's ticking. 72 hours. If she can't verify her identity and condition by Friday morning, that's 2 days from now, the law's clear." "What law?" I knew, but I wanted him to say it in front of witnesses. "Property without a clear present owner passes to territorial trust for safekeeping." The way he said safekeeping made it sound like theft. Marshal Graves cleared his throat. "Hardwick's technically right about the statute. Was written for situations where ranchers died on the trail, left property in limbo." "She ain't dead." "But she can't speak for herself," Hardwick said. "Can she? And that's curious, don't you think? A woman arrives here on her own, 2 feet, healthy, and suddenly she can't wake up." The crowd murmured louder. I saw the shift in their eyes, suspicion taking root. "I saved her life," I said. "Or you saw an opportunity." Hardwick moved to the door, addressed the crowd. Carmody here works odd jobs, barely scrapes by, has a child to feed. Then the richest woman in the territory appears in his custody, unable to speak, unable to verify anything. Convenient. That's a damned lie. Is it? Hardwick turned to the marshal. I want a deputy posted here, round the clock, to ensure Miss Merrick's safety and to ensure Mr. Carmody doesn't relocate her. Annabelle appeared in the doorway, clutching her slate. She'd written in chalk, "Pa saved her. That's the truth." Some faces in the crowd softened, but others looked away. Marshal Graves sighed, pulled a notice from his pocket, nailed it to my doorframe with 3 strikes of a hammer. Official seal visible. Compliance order. If Miss Merrick doesn't appear before the territorial judge by Friday dawn to verify her condition and consent, this property and her estate transfers to territorial custody pending resolution. Friday dawn, 48 hours. She'll be there, I said. Hardwick smiled. Dead or alive, apparently. The crowd dispersed. Deputies left one man behind, young, nervous, built a fire outside my door and settled in to watch. Inside, Annabelle climbed onto my lap. Her hands moved. What do we do, Pa? I looked at Beatrice Merrick, still unconscious, still voiceless, still the most powerful woman in the territory, and still completely powerless. We wait, I signed back, and we pray she wakes up in time. But I knew in my gut, Hardwick wasn't going to let that happen. The deputy stayed through the day, hunched by his fire, watching our door like we were criminals. Inside, I tended Beatrice while Annabelle drew pictures on her slate, documenting everything the way I'd taught her. Details matter when men lie. By nightfall, Beatrice's eyes had opened once, just for a moment. Confused, frightened. She'd tried to speak, but nothing came out except a rasp like wind through a broken fence. Her vocal cords, frozen and strained from screaming in that storm, had given out completely. She was awake, but voiceless, which meant she couldn't testify, couldn't verify anything. And Hardwick's 72-hour clock kept ticking. Around midnight, I heard the deputy leave his post. Heard low voices, his and someone else's, then hoofbeats fading toward town. I moved to the window. The fire outside was dying. No one watching. Annabelle tugged my sleeve, pointed to the door. Someone had slipped a paper underneath while I wasn't looking. I picked it up, unfolded it. One line written in a hand I recognized. Marshal Graves's tight script. Back door. 10 minutes. Come alone. Could be a trap. Could be Hardwick's move to get me away from Beatrice, claim I'd abandoned her. But something in my gut said otherwise. The marshal had looked uncomfortable all day, like a man doing something he knew was wrong but couldn't see a way around. I checked Beatrice, sleeping again, breathing steady. Looked at Annabelle. Stay with her, I signed. Don't open the door for anyone but me. Where are you going? To find out who's lying. I slipped out the back, into the snow and darkness. Circled wide around the shack, keeping to the tree line. The cold bit through my coat, but I barely felt it. My bad leg complained with every step, but I pushed through. Found Marshal Graves waiting near the creek, half hidden in the pines. No horse, just him, collar turned up against the wind. You alone? He asked. You said to be. He glanced over his shoulder, then handed me something. A folded map. Old, creased, hand-drawn. What's this? Way out. He pointed to a line marked in faded ink. Mine tunnel runs from about 100 yards behind your shack clear under the mountain, comes out near the old telegraph station 5 miles east. I studied the map. Why are you helping me? Because I know Clyde Hardwick. Known him 15 years. He's a snake who uses the law like a club. Marshal Graves's jaw tightened. I got orders from the territorial governor, Hardwick's uncle by marriage, to enforce that 72-hour rule. I got no choice there, but I got a choice about what I see and don't see. You're saying run. I'm saying get her to the county seat before Friday dawn. Get her in front of Judge Henderson, federal territorial judge, not local. He's an honest man. If she can testify, even in writing, Henderson will hear it. She can't speak. Don't need to speak to write her name. Don't need to speak to sign documents. He pushed the map into my hands. But you need to get there. Roads watched. Hardwick's got men on every trail. That tunnel's your only shot. Why would you risk this? Hardwick finds out. I'm 6 months from retirement. The marshal's voice was quiet. I've bent for bad men too many times because it was easier than standing. I'm tired of what I see in the mirror. He turned to leave, then stopped. Your daughter, the deaf girl. She drew pictures today, showed them to me when no one was looking. Pictures of you pulling that woman from snow. Pictures of the ring on her finger. That's evidence, Silas. Keep those pictures safe. He disappeared into the trees before I could thank him. I made it back inside just as Annabelle was shaking Beatrice awake. The woman's eyes opened, clearer now. She saw me, saw Annabelle, tried to speak again. Nothing came. Annabelle held up her slate, wrote, "Can't talk?" Beatrice shook her head, frustrated tears in her eyes. Annabelle wrote, "We use chalk. You can too." She handed Beatrice the slate and chalk. Beatrice stared at it for a long moment, then wrote in shaky letters, "Where am I?" "Safe," I wrote back. "For now. Who are you?" "Man who found you dying. Man who's about to lose everything for it." She read that, read it again, then wrote, "I'm sorry. Don't be sorry. Just trust me. We got 36 hours to get you to the county seat, and we're going through a mine tunnel to do it." Her eyes widened, but she nodded. Annabelle tugged my arm. Her signs were urgent. "Pa, I know that tunnel. Mama showed me, before she died." My heart stopped. "Margaret knew about it?" Annabelle nodded. She said, "If bad men come, go through the mountain. The dark will hide you." My wife had known. Somehow, she'd known we'd need an escape someday. I looked at Beatrice, at Annabelle, at the map in my hands. "We leave before dawn," I signed to Annabelle. "Pack light. We're walking out of here." Outside, I heard horses returning. The deputy, and more with him. Time had just run out. We had maybe an hour before the deputy settled back in. I spent it packing, water in canteens, dried meat wrapped in cloth, 2 wool blankets, the map, and Annabelle's slate and chalk. Beatrice watched from the cot, still weak but alert now. Her eyes followed everything I did with the focus of someone who'd spent years reading men to survive. Annabelle helped her stand. Beatrice was wobbly, like a newborn calf, but she could walk. That was something. I handed her a coat, Margaret's old one, the only spare we had. Beatrice pulled it on without hesitation. No pride, no complaints, just survival. She took the slate from Annabelle, wrote, "Why are you doing this?" I thought about lying, about saying it was the right thing, the decent thing. But this woman deserved truth, because I lost my wife 8 years ago. Wasn't there when she needed me. I took the chalk. Can't lose another person I could have saved. Beatrice stared at those words for a long time, then wrote, "Your wife." Annabelle touched the locket at her throat, opened it, showed Beatrice the photograph inside. Margaret, young and smiling, before the fever took her. Beatrice's hand went to her mouth. She wrote, "I'm sorry, so am I." I wrote back, "Every day." She looked at me different after that, like she was seeing past the rough clothes and the line shack and the limp, seeing the wound underneath. She wrote, "I was running away. From the ranch. From everything. Was going to sign papers, sell it all, go east. Why? Tired of fighting. 10 years of lawsuits. Men who think women can't own land, can't make decisions, can't exist without a man's name attached." Her hand shook as she wrote. I was giving up. Annabelle took the slate, wrote, "Pa says giving up and resting are different." Beatrice smiled. First time I'd seen it, small but real. The moment broke when we heard voices outside. More than one deputy now. 3, maybe 4. Hardwick wasn't taking chances. I moved to the back window, the one that faced the woods, pried it open slow. Cold air rushed in. "This way," I whispered. Beatrice went first, Annabelle helping her through. I passed out the packs, then squeezed through myself, my bad leg catching on the sill. Pain shot up my thigh, but I bit it back silent. We stayed low, moving through the trees. Snow had stopped falling, but the ground was deep with it. Every step left tracks. Nothing I could do about that except move fast and hope the darkness covered us long enough. Behind us, I heard the deputy call out, "Carmody, everything all right in there?" We had minutes before he checked. Annabelle led us east, toward the rock face where the mine entrance waited. She moved with certainty, like Margaret's ghost was guiding her steps. Found the opening hidden behind a deadfall, old timbers and brush covering a black hole in the mountain. I pulled the debris aside. The smell hit me first. Damp stone, stale air, earth that hadn't seen sun in decades. "In," I whispered. Beatrice hesitated. Can't blame her. Looked like the mouth of hell. But behind us, shouts, torches. They'd found the shack empty. She went in. Annabelle followed. I came last, pulling branches back over the entrance as best I could. Darkness swallowed us whole. I struck a match. Found an old oil lantern someone had left years ago. Wick still good. Lit it. The flame pushed back the dark just enough to see rough-cut walls, timber supports, and a tunnel stretching into nothing. Beatrice wrote on her slate, "How far?" 5 miles, I wrote back. Maybe more. Hard to say. Her face paled, but she nodded. Annabelle touched my arm. Her signs were shaky. "Pa, I'm scared." "Me too," I signed back. But we keep going. One step, then another. We started walking. The tunnel was narrow, barely wide enough for two people side by side. Water dripped somewhere deep. Our footsteps echoed. After about 10 minutes, Annabelle stopped, pointed up. I raised the lantern. Telegraph wire ran along the ceiling, ancient and sagging, but still there. Following the tunnel all the way through. If that wire still worked, if the telegraph station on the other end still had equipment, we had a chance. Behind us, faint but growing louder, I heard voices in the tunnel. They'd found the entrance. Hardwick's men were coming. We moved faster, half running through the dark. The lantern swung wild, throwing shadows that looked like reaching hands. My legs screamed with every step, but I pushed through. Beatrice stumbled twice, caught herself on the rough walls. Annabelle stayed close, one hand gripping my coat. The tunnel narrowed, then narrowed more. I had to turn sideways. Beatrice pressed against the stone, breathing hard. The walls were close enough to touch both sides at once. Close enough that if you thought too much about the mountain pressing down above, you'd lose your mind. Behind us, torchlight flickered. Voices echoed, distorted by stone. "They're in here. Move!" I glanced back. 4 torches, maybe 5, coming fast. We pushed on. The tunnel opened suddenly into a small chamber. Old mining station looked like. Rusted tools scattered on the ground, broken timbers, and in the corner, covered in dust and cobwebs, a telegraph station. The wooden desk was rotted through in places. The equipment looked like it hadn't been touched since before Annabelle was born. But the wire still ran through the ceiling and disappeared into the tunnel on the far side. "Rest," I said, though we didn't have time. Beatrice collapsed onto the dirt floor, breathing ragged. Annabelle stayed standing, watching the tunnel we'd come from. Calculating. My girl had her mother's mind, always 3 moves ahead. I examined the telegraph. The battery cells were dead, empty of acid, but there was a hand crank generator in the corner, rusted but maybe functional. If I could get it connected, if the wire wasn't cut somewhere between here and the county seat. Big ifs. "Silas Carmody!" The voice echoed from the tunnel. "Hardwick. He'd come himself. There's no way out. That tunnel collapses a mile ahead. We checked." I didn't answer. Started working on the generator connections, fingers clumsy with cold and hurry. Annabelle tugged my sleeve, held up her slate. "He's lying. Tunnel goes through. Mama told me." I nodded. "Keep working. Get the connections tight." Beatrice crawled to me, took the slate, wrote, "Even if you send message, I can't testify, can't speak." I wrote back, "Written testimony. If we can reach Judge Henderson, tell him what happened, show him you're alive." She shook her head, wrote, "Won't matter. Territorial law says woman can't own ranch alone, need male heir or legal partner." I have neither. My hand stopped. "What?" She wrote faster now. Father mentioned once, tribal treaties, blood debt customs. If someone saves your life, creates kinship. Kinship might count as partnership under federal law. That real? Don't know. Father studied it, but never tested it. Fort Bridger Treaty, 1868. I stared at her. A slim thread. Maybe not even real. But it was something. The torches were closer now, maybe 2 minutes away. I cranked the generator. It resisted, rusted gears screaming, then caught, hummed to life. The telegraph key sparked. I tapped, testing, testing. Nothing. Tried again. Still nothing. Carmody, Hardwick's voice. Walk out now, hands up, and we'll call this a misunderstanding. Stay, and it's kidnapping. Federal crime. I kept trying. My hands shook. Come on, please. Annabelle touched my shoulder, pointed to the far tunnel, escape route. But if I ran now, we'd never get the message out, never reach the judge. Beatrice would lose everything, and Hardwick would spin whatever story he wanted. Beatrice grabbed my hand, wrote on slate with other hand, "Go, I'll slow him down. Buy you time. No, you have daughter. She needs you more than I do." I looked at Annabelle, at her wide, frightened eyes. She signed, "We don't leave people behind, Pa. That's not who we are." God, she sounded like Margaret. The torches rounded the corner. 4 men, Hardwick in front, guns drawn. "Hands up," Hardwick said. I raised my hands slowly, stepped in front of Annabelle and Beatrice. Hardwick smiled. "Wise choice." He looked at Beatrice. "Miss Merrick, you're safe now. We'll get you proper medical attention." She didn't move, just stared at him. "Miss Merrick?" He stepped closer. "Can you hear me?" She nodded. "Can you speak?" She shook her head, pointed to her throat. Hardwick's smile widened. "Convenient." He turned to his men. "Take Carmody. Restrain him. We'll sort out charges later." 2 men grabbed my arms. I didn't fight. Wasn't the time, but as they did, I saw it. Marshal Graves stepping into the chamber behind Hardwick's men. Alone. No torch. Moving quiet. He caught my eye, held a finger to his lips. Hardwick was still talking. "As for Miss Merrick, she'll come with us. We'll get a doctor to confirm she's unable to give testimony. Then the 72-hour rule stands, the estate transfers." "That's murder by paperwork," I said. "That's law." Hardwick moved to Beatrice, reached for her arm. She jerked back, fell. Her hand hit the telegraph key. It chattered, random dots and dashes. Meaningless noise. Except, a reply came. Faint. Crackling. 3 letters. RCD received. Someone was listening. Hardwick froze, stared at the telegraph. "That line's been dead for 5 years." "Apparently not," Marshal Graves said, stepping into the light, gun drawn. "And everything you just said just got transmitted to the county seat. Judge Henderson's been listening for the past 10 minutes. I made sure of that." Hardwick spun. "Graves, what the hell?" "I'm done," the marshal said. "Done watching you twist the law. Done being your errand boy." He looked at me. "Get them out of here, Silas. Use the far tunnel. I'll handle this." "You're making a mistake," Hardwick said. "No," Graves replied. "I've been making mistakes for years. This is me fixing one." I grabbed Beatrice's arm, pulled her up. Annabelle was already moving toward the far tunnel. Behind us, Hardwick shouted. Men moved. A gunshot cracked, deafening in the stone chamber. We ran into the darkness. We made it to the county seat by dawn, barely. The tunnel had spit us out near the old telegraph station like the marshal said, and from there we'd walked, stumbled really, the last 8 miles through darkness. My leg gave out twice. Beatrice kept moving on willpower alone. Annabelle was the only one of us still steady, pulling us both forward when we wanted to quit. The territorial courthouse was a 2-story stone building that looked like it had weathered 100 years of frontier justice and would weather 100 more. People were already gathering when we arrived. Word had spread somehow. Telegraph, probably. Judge Henderson expecting us. Or maybe they'd come to watch Clyde Hardwick finish what he started. He was already there, standing on the courthouse steps, clean-shaven and pressed suit, looking like he'd slept in a feather bed instead of chasing us through mine tunnels all night. His men flanked him. No sign of Marshal Graves. That worried me. When Hardwick saw us, his face went hard as winter ground. But he smiled, always smiling, that one. "Miss Merrick," he called out, "thank God you're safe. We've been so worried." Beatrice didn't acknowledge him. Just climbed the steps, leaning on Annabelle, and walked past him into the courthouse. The courtroom was packed, every bench filled, people standing along the walls. I recognized faces from Stillwater, from the ranch territories, from towns I'd passed through doing odd work, all of them here to see how this played out. Judge Henderson sat behind the bench, 60-something, gray beard, eyes like a hawk that missed nothing. Federal territorial judge, appointed by Washington. About as close to impartial as you could get out here. "This court is in session," he said. "We're here to address the matter of Beatrice Merrick's estate and the charges against Silas Carmody." "Your Honor." Hardwick stood. "If I may." "You may not." Henderson's voice was iron. "I've received some very interesting telegraph communications this morning from Marshal Graves. Seems there's a lot more to this story than your initial filing suggested." Hardwick's jaw tightened. "Your Honor, I'm not sure what Marshal Graves told you, but he told me you've been using territorial statutes to steal land for the past 3 years, that you've got 47 fraudulent transfers on record, that you just admitted on an open telegraph line that you planned to declare Miss Merrick dead while she was standing in the same room as you." The courtroom erupted, voices overlapping, people shouting. Henderson banged his gavel. "Order!" Hardwick recovered fast. "Your Honor, those are serious accusations. I'll need to see proof." "I have proof." Marjorie Stillwater stood from the back of the courtroom, walked forward carrying a leather folder that looked like it weighed 10 pounds. 12 years' worth, Your Honor. Every document certified and notarized." She spread the papers on the judge's bench. Title transfers, railroad contracts, letters with Hardwick's signature promising land he didn't own. "Mrs. Stillwater," Henderson said, examining the documents, "how did you come by these?" "My late husband was territorial attorney," Marjorie said. "I transcribed his work for 12 years, learned how to read contracts, how to spot fraud. When he died, I kept his files, and I kept watching." She looked at Hardwick. "Some men think women don't understand law. That's their mistake." The judge studied the papers for a long minute. "These appear authentic." He looked at Hardwick. "Care to explain?" "Forgeries," Hardwick said. "Clearly fabricated to—" "They're certified by the Territorial Records Office," Henderson said. "Your signature is on 18 of them, along with a rather substantial payment from Union Pacific Railroad." He held up a contract. $50,000 if you deliver the Merrick Ranch. That true?" Hardwick said nothing. "I'll take that as a yes." Henderson turned to me. "Mr. Carmody, you're accused of kidnapping Miss Merrick." "What's your statement?" I stood. Every eye in that courtroom turned to me. I'd never been good with speeches, never been good with words at all, but I knew how to tell truth. "I found her dying in a blizzard," I said. 4 men rode past her. I didn't. Brought her to my shack, gave her medical care. She'd be dead if I hadn't." I looked at Hardwick. He knew that, didn't care, just wanted to use the 72-hour law to take her land while she couldn't speak for herself. "Miss Merrick," Henderson said, "is this accurate?" Beatrice stood, took Annabelle's slate and chalk, wrote in large letters, held it up for the whole court to see. "Silas Carmody saved my life. Everything he says is true." The courtroom murmured. Henderson leaned forward. "Miss Merrick, can you speak?" She shook her head, pointed to her throat, wrote, "Vocal cords damaged from cold. Will heal, but not yet." "I see." Henderson looked troubled. "Here's the problem. The law requires verbal testimony for property verification. Written statements aren't sufficient under territorial statute." My stomach dropped. Hardwick stepped forward, sensing victory. "Your Honor, I move that the 72-hour presumption stands. Miss Merrick cannot provide proper testimony. The estate should transfer to territorial administration for—" "Additionally," Henderson continued, ignoring him, "Territorial Statute 47B requires a woman to have either a male heir or a legal partner to maintain property ownership. Miss Merrick, do you have either?" Beatrice looked at me, then at Annabelle, then wrote, "No." Then I'm afraid, Henderson said slowly, that even with Mr. Carmody's exoneration, your ranch must be— Wait. Dr. Taggart stood. I hadn't even seen him come in. Your Honor, there's another option. Fort Bridger Treaty of 1868, Article 7. Henderson's eyebrows raised. Go on. Federal law recognizes Shoshone customs regarding life debt. Specifically, a person who saves another's life becomes clankin. Clankin constitutes legal partnership under tribal code. Dr. Taggart stepped forward. I was there when Mr. Carmody brought Miss Merrick in. I treated her frostbite. She was minutes from death. Mr. Carmody saved her life. That creates blood debt. Blood debt creates kinship. Kinship creates partnership. That's absurd, Hardwick said. You can't use tribal law for white citizens' property disputes. Federal treaty supersedes territorial statute, Henderson said. That's established precedent. Montana Territory, 1881. He looked at me. Mr. Carmody, did you save Miss Merrick's life? Yes, Your Honor. Can Dr. Taggart verify this? I can, Taggart said. And I have medical records documenting her condition upon arrival. Henderson turned to Beatrice. Miss Merrick, do you consent to this partnership under treaty law? She didn't hesitate. Wrote, yes. Mr. Carmody? I looked at Annabelle. She signed, say yes, Pa. I consent, Your Honor. Henderson struck his gavel. Then by authority of the Fort Bridger Treaty and federal territorial jurisdiction, I recognize Silas Carmody and Beatrice Merrick as legal partners. Miss Merrick's property rights are confirmed. This court rules in favor of— Your Honor! Hardwick's voice cracked. This is— You can't— I can. And I did. Henderson looked at the deputies. Mr. Hardwick, you're to be held for federal investigation into fraud and conspiracy. Bail denied. Hardwick lunged, not at the deputies, at me. You ruined everything. He had a gun. Where the hell had he hidden a gun? And he was raising it, finger on the trigger. I shoved Annabelle behind me, saw Beatrice move between us and Hardwick, saw the barrel level at her chest. The shot echoed like thunder. I threw myself forward, felt the impact like a hammer to my shoulder. The world spun sideways and I hit the courthouse floor hard enough to knock the breath from my lungs. Couldn't tell if I was shot or if I just moved wrong on my bad leg. Pain everywhere. Couldn't separate one hurt from another. Shouts. Boots pounding. Annabelle's scream. I couldn't hear it, but I felt it in my chest like a physical thing. Someone rolled me over. Beatrice's face above mine, her mouth moving. Couldn't make out the words through the ringing in my ears. Then pressure on my shoulder. Sharp. Burning. Her hands pressing down. And yeah, that was blood. Mine. Soaking through my shirt. Warm and wrong. Dr. Taggart appeared. Pushed Beatrice aside gently, tore my shirt open. His hands moved quick and sure, the way they always did. Clean through, he said. You'll live, you damn fool. Past him, I could see deputies wrestling Hardwick to the ground. 3 men holding him down while Marshal Graves, he'd made it after all, blood on his sleeve but standing, cuffed Hardwick's hands behind his back. It's over, Clyde, Graves said. But Hardwick was laughing. Wild, broken laughter that didn't sound human anymore. Over? You think this is over? I have lawyers. I have connections. The governor's being investigated too, Judge Henderson said, standing now behind his bench like an Old Testament prophet pronouncing judgment. Federal marshals are likely arresting him as we speak. Your uncle-in-law won't be saving you. The laughter died. Hardwick's face went gray. They dragged him out. Still fighting, still screaming about injustice and conspiracies and how this wasn't legal. His voice faded as they pulled him down the courthouse steps. Annabelle crashed into me, careful of my shoulder, but holding on tight. Her whole body shook. I wrapped my good arm around her, felt her tears soaking through what was left of my shirt. You're okay? She signed against my chest. I'm okay, I signed back with my good hand. Just a scratch, Doctor. Taggart snorted. Scratch. Bullet went clean through your shoulder. You're lucky it missed the bone. Feels lucky, I said, and realized I meant it. I was alive. Annabelle was safe. Beatrice was free. The courtroom had gone quiet. Everyone watching us. This strange trio on the floor, a bleeding cowboy, a deaf child, and a voiceless cattle baroness, who'd just beaten the most powerful lawyer in the territory using a treaty from before any of us were born. Judge Henderson cleared his throat. For the record, all charges against Silas Carmody are dismissed. Furthermore, I'm ordering a full federal investigation into Clyde Hardwick's land dealings. Anyone who lost property to fraudulent transfers in the past 5 years should file a claim with the Territorial Office. Murmurs ran through the crowd, some angry, people who'd lost their land and thought it was gone forever, some relieved, some just stunned. Henderson continued, "As for the matter of the Merrick estate, the partnership between Silas Carmody and Beatrice Merrick is hereby recognized under federal treaty law. Mr. Carmody, you now have equal legal standing regarding all property decisions. Miss Merrick, your rights are fully restored." Beatrice helped me sit up, her hands gentle despite the blood. She took Annabelle's slate, wrote something, held it where I could see. "Thank you. For everything." I took the chalk from her, wrote back with my shaking hand. "You'd have done the same." She smiled, shook her head, wrote, "No, I would have kept writing, like those other 4 men. But you didn't ride away just now. You stepped in front of that gun." Her face changed. She hadn't even thought about it, I realized, just moved. Same way I'd moved when I saw her dying in the snow. Sometimes you don't choose to be brave, you just are. "Doctor." Taggart finished bandaging my shoulder. "You'll need rest, weeks of it. No heavy lifting, no riding, no heroics." "Can I walk?" "Slowly." "Good enough." Annabelle and Beatrice helped me stand. The courtroom spun once, then settled. Every person in that room was watching us. Marjorie Stillwater stood first, started clapping, then Dr. Taggart, then others. One by one, then in a wave. The whole courtroom on their feet, applauding like we'd done something worth remembering. I didn't feel like a hero. Felt like a man who'd barely survived making one decent choice. But Annabelle was beaming, signing, "We won, Pa!" And Beatrice was standing tall, chin up, looking like the woman she'd been before she'd tried to run away, like she'd remembered why she'd fought for 10 years to keep that ranch. Marshal Graves met us at the courthouse door. His left arm was wrapped. He'd been shot, too, I realized. In that tunnel, holding off Hardwick's men so we could escape. "You good?" I asked. "I'm good." He looked at Beatrice, tipped his hat. "Miss Merrick, I'm sorry for the trouble. Should have stood up to Hardwick years ago." She took the slate, wrote, "You stood up when it mattered." He nodded, looked relieved, like he'd been carrying weight for a long time and had finally set it down. Outside, the sun was breaking through the clouds. First real sun I'd seen in days. The snow had stopped, and you could almost smell spring coming underneath the cold. "Now what?" I asked. Beatrice wrote, "Now we go home, all of us, and we build something worth keeping." She looked at me, at Annabelle, at the land stretching out beyond the courthouse. "Partners?" she wrote. I took the chalk. Partners. We didn't make it off the courthouse steps before the crowd surrounded us. Not threatening this time, curious, cautious. People who'd believed Hardwick's lies now seeing things different. A few looked ashamed. Most just looked confused, like they were trying to figure out how the world had turned upside down in one morning. An older woman pushed through, ranch wife by the look of her weathered hands. "Miss Merrick," she said, then stopped, remembering. Looked at Annabelle's slate. Beatrice took the chalk, wrote, "Yes. My husband lost our homestead 3 years back. Hardwick said it was legal, said we'd missed payments. But we hadn't. We had receipts." Her voice broke. Is there a way to file a claim?" Beatrice wrote. "Judge Henderson said anyone who lost land to fraud, you'll get it back." The woman's eyes filled. She reached for Beatrice's hand, squeezed it. "Thank you. God bless you." Others came forward after that, one by one. Stories of lost land, stolen homes, families scattered because Hardwick had used the law like a weapon. Beatrice wrote responses to each one, patient despite her exhaustion, promising to help, promising to remember. I watched her become herself again. The Iron Widow they'd called her, but I was seeing now it wasn't coldness that made her iron. It was this, standing when others would have bent, remembering when others would have forgotten. Finally, Dr. Taggart stepped in. "Folks, let them breathe. Mr. Carmody's been shot, Miss Merrick's been through hell, and that child needs rest. The crowd parted. We made our way down the steps, slow, Annabelle supporting me on one side. That's when I saw him, Hardwick's wife, standing at the edge of the crowd with 3 children, 2 boys and a girl, none older than 12. The girl was crying silently, the boys trying not to. Their mother's face was ash white, holding herself together through pure will. She met Beatrice's eyes across the distance, didn't speak, just stood there with her children, carrying the weight of a name that would be poison now in every town from here to Denver. Beatrice stopped, looked at them for a long moment. Then she walked over, alone. I couldn't hear what she said, her voice still gone. But I saw her take the slate, write something, show it to Hardwick's wife. The woman read it. Her face crumpled. She shook her head, started to protest. Beatrice wrote more, held the slate steady until the woman read it again. Finally, slowly, Hardwick's wife nodded. Beatrice touched the woman's shoulder once, gentle, then turned and walked back to us. "What did you tell her?" I asked. Beatrice wrote, "That her children don't carry his sins, that they'll always have a place at Carmody Merrick Ranch if they need it." I stared at her. "You just offered sanctuary to the family of the man who tried to kill you," she wrote. "You stopped for a stranger in a blizzard. I learned from that." Annabelle tugged her sleeve, signed. "That's mercy, right, Pa?" "That's mercy," I signed back. We made it to the livery where we'd left the horses. Beatrice's black mare and Dust, both still tired but sound. Dr. Taggart had brought his wagon, insisted on driving us. I didn't argue. My shoulder was throbbing, and the adrenaline that had carried me through the trial was fading fast. The ride back took 3 hours. Beatrice dozed against the wagon side, finally allowing herself to rest. Annabelle stayed awake, pressed against me, watching the landscape pass. When we crested the ridge above my line shack, I saw it. Or what was left of it. Burned, completely gone. Just blackened timbers and ash where our home had been. Annabelle's breath caught. All her drawings. The few things we'd had left of Margaret. Gone. "I'm sorry, little one," I signed. She looked up at me. "We're alive. That's more wisdom beyond her years. Beyond mine, maybe." "We'll rebuild," Beatrice wrote, seeing what we were looking at. "But not here, at the main house. There's room." I started to refuse, old pride kicking in, but Annabelle signed. "Say yes, Pa. We're partners now. Partners live together." Beatrice nodded, wrote, "She's right. Besides, I need someone who knows horses, and someone who can teach me those hand signs." The main house was 2 miles further east, white clapboard, 2 stories, with a porch that wrapped around 3 sides. Big enough for 10 families, let alone 3 people. As we pulled up, ranch hands came out. Stopped when they saw Beatrice, alive, sitting in the wagon next to a bleeding cowboy and a deaf child. The foreman, grizzled man named Dutch, worked the ranch 40 years. He came forward slow. "Miss Merrick, we heard. There were rumors you were—" She smiled. Took the slate, wrote, "Reports of my death were greatly exaggerated." Dutch laughed, then saw me, saw the blood. "Who's this?" "Silas Carmody," Beatrice wrote. "My partner. Treat him accordingly." The word spread through the hands like wildfire. Partner, legal, recognized, equal. Some looked skeptical, most looked relieved. They'd been facing losing their jobs, their homes, if the ranch had transferred to Hardwick. Now they had a future again. We went inside. The house was bigger than I'd imagined. Rooms I couldn't even count. Furniture that cost more than I'd earned in my whole life. Beatrice led us upstairs, to a suite of rooms on the 2nd floor. 3 bedrooms connected by a shared sitting room. "Yours," she wrote. "All of it. Make it home." That night, after Dr. Taggart had changed my bandages and left, after Annabelle had fallen asleep in a real bed for the first time in years, I sat on the porch with Beatrice. She'd found paper and pen, easier than chalk. Wrote, "What happens now?" Now? I looked out at the land, at the mountains dark against the stars. Now we figure out how to run a ranch, how to be partners, how to build something that lasts. She wrote, I don't know how to trust people. Spent 10 years fighting everyone. I don't know how to accept help. Spent 10 years doing everything alone. She smiled. Wrote, "We'll learn together." The door opened. Annabelle came out, wrapped in a quilt, rubbing sleep from her eyes. Climbed into my lap despite my wounded shoulder, careful but needing to be close. Beatrice reached over, put her hand on Annabelle's shoulder. Connected. The three of us, watching stars come out over land that was ours now. Not through blood, not through law exactly, through choice, through mercy, through stopping when others rode on. "Tell me something," I said to Beatrice. "Why were you out there alone that day? Really?" She took the paper, wrote slowly, "I was giving up. Going to sign everything over to Hardwick, escape east. Start over where nobody knew me. What changed?" She looked at Annabelle, then at me. Wrote, "I remembered what it feels like to be seen as human. Not property, not a problem, just human. I understood that. Spent my whole life being invisible. The broke cowboy, the hired hand, the man people looked past. But she'd seen me. Annabelle had seen me. And somehow, in stopping for one dying stranger, I'd become visible." We sat there until the stars wheeled overhead and the cold drove us inside. Tomorrow would bring questions. How to run a ranch together. How to rebuild trust with hands who'd served the Merrick name for generations. How to help the families Hardwick had destroyed. But tonight we were just three people who'd survived something impossible. And that was enough. That was 35 years ago. I'm an old man now. 82 come October. My hands don't work like they used to. Arthritis makes them stiff as fence wire in the morning. And that shoulder Hardwick shot? It aches when the weather turns. Tells me when snow's coming 3 days before it falls. Some wounds don't ever fully heal. They just become part of you. But I remember that blizzard. The one in 1889. January 12th. Remember it like it happened this morning. Not because of the cold, though God knows it was cold enough to kill. Not because of the guns or the lawyers or the courthouse drama that folks still talk about in Stillwater on slow afternoons. I remember it because that's the day I learned what my daughter already knew. That mercy ain't a transaction. That you don't help people because you're keeping score, waiting for them to pay you back. You help because it's right, because somebody's gotta, because the alternative is becoming the kind of man who can look at suffering and just keep riding. Those four cowboys who passed Beatrice Merrick that day. I found out later who they were. Good men mostly, family men, church-going, hard-working, honest in their dealings. They weren't evil. They were just practical, had places to be, didn't want the trouble, figured someone else would stop. You know what happened to them? Nothing. They lived their lives, worked their jobs, raised their kids, died in their beds probably, surrounded by people who loved them. But nobody remembers their names. Not a soul. They're just ghosts now, blown away like dust. But the woman I pulled from that snow, she built something that outlasted both of us. The Carmody Merrick Ranch runs 60,000 acres now, 3 times what it was in '89, employs 200 families across 4 counties. We've got a school for deaf children that Annabelle started when she was 25. First of its kind in Wyoming, now copied in 6 other states. Got a legal aid office that Marjorie Stillwater ran until she died at 93, helping families fight the Hardwicks of the world. We've got a library with 3,000 books. Got a medical clinic that treats anyone who needs it, whether they can pay or not. Got a telegraph station, ironic that connects ranches across 2 territories, carrying messages of truth instead of lies. All of it started because one man stopped when others rode on. I ain't telling you this to make myself sound heroic. Truth is, I was scared that whole time. Scared when I saw that ring on her finger. Scared when the mob showed up. Scared in that tunnel. Scared in that courtroom. Fear don't make you a coward. Acting despite the fear, that's what counts. Bee's sitting beside me right now on this porch, watching the sunset paint the mountains purple and gold. 69 years old, hair gone silver, but still strong. Still fights when fighting's needed, still shows mercy when mercy's called for. We never did marry, didn't need to. Partnership was always bigger than any ceremony could make it. We built something together that was about more than just two people trying not to be lonely. We built a family, not through blood, though Annabelle's children and grandchildren carry both our names now, but through choice, through showing up, through stopping when we could have kept riding. Annabelle's driving up right now. I can hear that automobile from half a mile away. Sounds like a mechanical devil. She's 43 now, runs the deaf education program, advocates at the state legislature, got 3 children of her own. The youngest is deaf, like her grandmother was, like she is. Wears the locket with Margaret's picture and Bee's father's ring and a new photograph we added last year, all 3 of us together, 3 generations, one family. The children spill out, running toward the porch. The little one, 8 years old, same age Annabelle was that winter, she signs to me, "Grandpa, tell the story, about the blizzard, about when you stopped." I look at Bee. She smiles, nods, still can't talk much. That cold, damaged something in her throat that never quite healed. But she don't need words, never really did, so I'll tell them. Tell them about the choice, about the storm, about how everything that matters started with one decision to turn towards suffering instead of away from it. Because some stories need telling, need remembering, need passing down until they become part of who we are. See, the world's full of people riding past, full of folks who keep their heads down, who don't want trouble, who figure someone else will stop. And I understand that. I do. Life's hard enough without taking on other people's problems. Easier to mind your business, protect your own, keep moving. But here's what I learned in that blizzard, in that mind tunnel, in that courtroom, in 35 years of partnership with a woman who should have been my enemy. The biggest things in life, the things that matter, the things that last, they all start small. One person stopping, one act of mercy, one choice to do right when wrong would be easier. You plant a seed like that, and it grows into something you can't imagine, into schools and clinics and families and futures, into telegraph lines carrying truth across mountains, into children who learn that dignity ain't about what you own, it's about who you are when nobody's watching, into a legacy that outlives you. My grandson climbs into my lap now, careful of the shoulder, he's a good boy. Asks the question they all ask, "Grandpa, were you scared?" "Scared to death," I tell him, every minute. "Then why'd you do it?" I look at his great-grandmother Bee, at his grandmother Annabelle, at the ranch stretching to the horizon, at the life we built from one moment of not looking away. "Because your great-grandmother Annabelle was watching," I say. "And I wanted her to see what kind of man her father was, the kind who stops, even when it costs, even when it's hard, especially then." He nods, serious, taking it in. So here's what I'm asking you, wherever you're listening from tonight, whether you're in Texas or New York or some little town nobody's heard of, whether you're young or old, rich or poor, riding high or barely hanging on, your moment's coming. Maybe it's already come and gone. Maybe it's waiting around the next corner. But it's coming. A moment where you see someone suffering, where you see tracks leading into white nothing, where you've got a choice. Keep riding, stay safe, protect your own, or turn into the storm for a stranger you'll never see again. What will you choose? Because I'm telling you, the difference between those two choices, that's the difference between a life lived and a life wasted, between being remembered and being forgotten, between building something that lasts and just passing through. 4 men rode past Beatrice Merrick that day. I stopped. And everything came from that. So don't tell me one person can't make a difference. Don't tell me mercy's weakness. Don't tell me the right thing don't matter because the world's too hard, too cold, too broken. I've seen what one act of mercy can do. Seen it grow for 35 years. And I'm telling you, it matters. You matter. Your choice matters. Now drop a comment below and tell me, where are you listening from tonight? And what's your story of stopping when you should have kept going? I'd like to hear it. Till next time, friends. May your dignity carry you through the storms. May you have the courage to stop when others ride on. And may you build something worth leaving behind.